It's okay. Sorry, just continue. Yeah, it's not we didn't grow up in a homogenous society. And
Right. So, like you were talking about whenever you would go back to when you studied in China and your family, um, just kind of getting them to understand your experience. And this is something that I discovered as I was meeting other Korean adoptees and going out to eat with them. And I remember the first time I met with a large group in Pittsburgh, there were 15 of us. I was like, oh my God, I've
mm,
been at a table with this many Asians ever in my life.
mm,
Um, and so there was the movie Joyride, that scene where she's in China because she thought she was a Chinese adoptee, but she turned out to be a Korean adoptee.
right.
Um,
Yeah. I haven't seen it, so yeah. Oh my gosh, on your phone. Yeah. Uh,
yeah, it's a whole thing, but
uh,
she um she is like talking about being in China and like she's meeting her friend's family and she's like, I just feel like if I had grown up here, it would have been so different for me because I could have just been a girl.
yeah.
Um, I wouldn't have had to have been that Asian girl or the smart girl,
Yeah.
overachiever. I could have just been a regular girl. And I don't think that like a lot of us who are in a minority to that extent realize how much that affects us
Yeah.
and how we operate in the world. Because you said you felt like you were carrying, uh, what was it you said you were carrying?
Well, I think may have used the words kingdom, empire, but it's the burden of culture is what I personally call it. It's the burden when you're a person who is not born in your family's, let's call it stereotypical, because it's not even true for my bloodlines and stuff. I'm part of like a multi-diasporic thing, migration pattern. And so by the time I end up here, right, essentially I'm carrying all of this behind me because family has basically said, like, this is you. This is what you are the one who are responsible for carrying it forward. And I actually, can I be so honest with you? I had friends who were Asian adoptees who I felt like, because they were adopted in by white families, and I remember looking at them and being like, God, I wish I had your life because your parents aren't putting this like burden on you. In fact, it was more like, oh, we want to go visit China or Korea to like so that you can see like, where you came from. And it almost seemed like really simple, in comparison. And I was always so jealous because like behind me, I have like 700 of my like family members living plus all the freaking ancestors beyond because they speak through them, right? Like
Right.
it's just it's really tiring, you know?
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot of family voices telling you how you need to live your life. And
very Milan. Yes.
when you factor in the fact that, like you said, you are from a vast diasporatic, like,
Yeah.
they probably didn't always all agree
Yeah.
on things. So it puts you in the middle of it all too, and the responsibility, the weight of that responsibility to properly represent your entire ancestral line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I think there is you basically will see one of two extremes with children of immigrant families that are this traditional, right? You basically see that someone is completely inside of it, right? Like you have to do all the right things, and you're, of course, never going to be doing 100% the right thing because everyone has such a different idea of what that means. Or you see the complete rejection of culture, of ethnic identity, of everything else, wanting to be white adjacent, right? Because that's what I guess that's an option inside of the larger US born identity, right? You get to just choose that, which I don't want to say that it's wrong. I just want to say that like I've observed this pattern, in others who have had a similar migration pattern as my family. I will say for myself that I was really forced to be this side on the traditional side of things, but for me the journey has been more how do I choose how to live my life because it's beyond just Oh man, the internet just sucks right now. So, individualism and collectivism is not as simple as everyone would like it to believe, like to believe. I feel like many times collectivism gets romanticized and basically it's like, well, everyone's like in it together. Do you know what sucks about coming from a collectivist culture is that you have to carry this freaking burden. And you have to do it even when you're inside of American culture where there are all these signals and messages about like finding like find your passion and like all this stuff. Your family doesn't give a crap about your passion. To this day my family does not give a crap about this, about anything that I do, because everything that I do will be wrong in their eyes because I didn't follow that person's vision. And
Right.
so for me, why I went to China to study, why I worked really, really hard to break myself out of every type of bubble type situation. I mean, moving around the States, moving to other countries, moving to different parts of Asia also, right? Literally trying to see for myself, like, is my family right? Or like, can I choose something different? Like, but also like, do I have to be all the way on this side? No, it's a spectrum. So I get it now. I get that I'm also a person who has had experiences that have been totally unprecedented. The fact that I have also immigrated to other countries, like, is just mind-boggling when I think about, right? They came here. I'm in the States right now, so that's here. They expected everyone to like stay here. Like you will be of this place. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna move. And so when that happens and the things I've encountered in other overseas nations, right? That's what we might say. It gets more complicated, right? And I can no longer just be like, I'm holding like, oh yes, from dynasty whatever to now, like that's my responsibility apparently.
Yeah.
No, but I can speak for what that's been like, and I can say why I identify as such and why, because my grandparents played a huge role in my life. I can say that Chinese culture and certain ethnic Chinese values have been very important. Another thing we haven't talked about, crap, is religion. So no, maybe we don't have time, but I do feel like that's actually very important for us who are part of the Asian diaspora in the West, for us to figure out how to walk that line. And there are so many great therapists online who not only do culturally informed therapy, but they put out resources now. Because a lot of them are children of immigrants from collectivist cultures who have forced the burden of culture on them and are working to help other children of immigrants to figure out what is their identity without betraying their family or their bloodline.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
People don't realize that. Like,
Yeah.
and not to be all like, here's some cheese with the wine about it, but like, I don't. I think that's an experience that a lot of people in America take for granted when they talk about immigrants. Like,
Mm,
you get to live on the baseline because the baseline was built around you, and you expect everybody else to meet you here, and they
mm,
can, and they're willing, and they're going to, because evidently there's not really any other choice.
mm.
But they have to do all of these things to calibrate to get here, and that's just to get the day started.
Yeah,
Um, and I just don't think people realize like how much effort that takes. And then on top of that, having to face microaggressions or just challenges of being an immigrant in America, navigating your life, getting a job, getting housing, financing if you need a car. There's
yeah,
just things that aren't that simple. I mean, I feel like a lot of people speak from the perspective of if everything was perfect or if everything worked the way we thought that it was going to or in theory was supposed to, but nothing does.
yeah,
Um, and that's the unfortunate truth of it is that I get it. And from where you're standing, yes, it does make absolute sense. Yes, and I can see why you think it makes sense. But unfortunately, you are standing in the river of denial and
delusion.
next
Yeah.
to the island of delusion.
Yes, exactly.
And you're going to have to come over here to
Yeah.
really understand what the solution is because Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah. It and I say that to be more frank, like, in their minds, to speak back on immigrants and just moving here in general, people just think, oh, well, you've moved here, you've got the American dream, you're going to have a better life than where you're from. Everything's cake, congratulations. But it's not. Like, if you're trying to get your citizenship, there is so much money that goes into
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that I wouldn't be able to afford right now, if I'm being honest.
Mm,
And the testing that you have to go
mm,
through to pass to prove that you can be a citizen, I guarantee you that 75%, and that is a
mm.
statistic that I'm pulling out of my ass, yes, but I would lay money that 75% of American natural born citizens would not be able to pass it.
Yeah. And that would include those who hold university or advanced degrees, because this is not something that we are taught in this type of way. And I know because I have helped with citizenship prep. And so I'm like, damn, like, I mean, I helped when I was a kid for my grandparents, right? And that's literally how I had an education on the way the country works, even though I am born and raised right here. I didn't learn that in school. And by the time I learned it in school, I was like, oh yeah, like, but why aren't we going deeper? Like, like we should probably cover more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I mean, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but the
It's
truth,
okay. The other day I told my mother that all the maps are wrong, and she literally looked at me like, what are you on about? Like it's,
well,
yeah, but they
that's
are.
true.
Yeah.
They are not properly
They're
proportioned.
France is not that large, guys. Yeah.
Hold your wig, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those things like when oh gosh, like with that water lawsuit, the Aaron Brockovich thing, like they have to tell you that it's in the water, but
Uh,
they don't necessarily disclose exactly the depth of it, because then that removes their liability, and then they can get you to go along with the program because
mm,
you knew, but you didn't want to. That's on you. So I
yeah.
feel like, you sure, we learn about the Constitution and we learn
Mhm.
about the amendments, but as so many internet keyboard warriors have proven, we did not fully understand what we were reading.
Yeah.
And we did not go deep enough into those to grasp like the purpose, the execution, and what most importantly, why it was put there in the first place. Because I think if we can focus on that, at least for a little bit, then maybe we can start to have those conversations of whether or not some of those things are still relevant today. And if maybe we shouldn't make another amendment or two, because
Yeah.
things are being twisted um, out of proportion, or however you want to look at it. But yeah, if as you were mentioning, when you go on those uh, citizenship tests, they go deep into that.
It's gotten a lot harder, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, like they footnote 51C under section
Yep.
821.5, like those are not actual numbers because I
Yeah.
don't that well.
3.1415. Yeah. Mm,
But yeah, like that's because, they want to verify that you have learned the ins and outs of what it is to be an American, which is ironic
yeah.
when actual Americans aren't even learning.
We are not alone, though. And I will just remind everyone that this is a typical thing that happens when you happen to be born into a country and have been given citizenship this way versus going through the immigration pathway, right? I really, really, really need everyone to just take a second and stop crapping on America and the US for a second and just recognize this is not, we're not the only country where this happens. Not only, we're far from the only country. And so rather than assuming that it's all because we're just so bad and like we won't change, just focus on the fact that this can be valid in a multitude of places. There is no perfect country, there is no perfect system. Everything in life is relative, but for sure, what one considers good or bad. I think first of all, we need to throw those terms out. Second of all, I mean, we could look at education reform. We could look at a lot of other things. I think we just also need to maybe, I mean, since we're talking Asian Americans in particular, I think in the same way that's very important to learn US history in a certain way, it's also very important to learn the version of your family's country of origins history in a way that does not depend on just stories transmitted by your very unfortunately not objective parents and or other family members. It doesn't mean that it's not true. It does not mean that it's also countries don't put propaganda or you know what I mean? Like they don't heavily influence the history that is told. I mean, for sure, yeah, China absolutely has. Like, I mean, I think Japan has as well. Everyone loves to talk about like, oh, Japan's so advanced. Yes, but they also don't teach about a lot of the things that they did, you know? And so learn from multiple sources, talk to people, go and recognize the fact that we none of us were presented a perfect version of a record of events. And
Right.
we need to stop pretending that it's just a failure of the system and whatever. You know, it's also personal responsibility to go seek out, I think, this information.
Absolutely. Because, I think we're now learning, and a lot of people are realizing, or at least they're talking about it, that even America is guilty of blocking out certain events in history. Because
Mm,
let's be honest, the
yeah,
victors write the history, like
yeah,
they keep the score.
yeah,
Um, and you know, there's a lot of African American history that has been misrepresented. And I think that's why a lot of people can't empathize with that community because they have not taken the time to seek out.
yeah,
And this is to speak on when people are like, oh, well, slavery was so long ago, or segregation was so long ago, or what are you talking about reparations, or
yeah,
what do you mean? Like, well, it's because, um, if life was a race, they were held down
yeah,
underwater for a good minute. And then when they finally got up, they had shackles on
yeah,
for a few laps. And then they had a good run, started building their own communities, being like independent, being successful, and that's when we just decided to burn down the entire track because we would be damned if they got a leg
yeah,
up chance. So, um, and I don't think a lot of people in America and yeah, and unfortunately, I think this is why we see a lot of immigrants support Trump or didn't speak
hmm
out for the African American community because that information is not on their citizenship test.
yeah,
That history is not
yes,
something that they would notice.
yes, yes. That is a great point. Yeah,
But there are still towns that live under lakes and dams all across this country that were once very successful, very affluent,
yeah,
prominent towns, but they just happened to be African American towns.
yeah,
And, if you need an example of that that you may have heard of, Black Wall Street.
yeah,
You know, that didn't just happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
yeah,
That happened a lot,
yeah,
like multiple towns in
yeah,
multiple states,
yeah,
all across this country. And there's so many people who don't know that.
yeah. I think it's also anytime a community. And okay, so I can hear the people online being like, oh, no, 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 but it also happened, you know, before with different types of immigrant populations because racism wasn't just, you know, for people of color or like visible skin color or whatever, because it was also when towards Irish people, towards other parts of people. Okay,
Sure,
Everything in context. Everything in context.
context.
And also, shouldn't that make the point that it is a thing? Like it further emphasizes the point that when a community sort of amasses wealth in an area because of mutual cooperation and community building and all that. And you have really, I mean, we have great examples of that even across different groups, right? Different racial groups. That poses a threat to who? Whoever's in power, who
Right.
has been in power. I mean, it's not by skin color, it's about power structures. It's about who is there, who has making very good, who is making the decisions, who is who is the one who is basically giving the order, right? And really I don't know why we're just, I mean, everyone has been saying like we're just losing our humanity. Yes, we started losing our humanity, I think, a long time ago. I feel personally like it just sucks to be living in this time right now because it God, also no surprise that like so many millennial women won't make kids or like literally just it's not better or worse than before. It just like we have more awareness and lucidity around it and we also can't be I think like women also in particular are like, well, we won't be tricked anymore. Like we're kind of tired of this crap. So I do feel like there's more support. But yeah, I just feel we have so many things that we need to get past in order to even start the to lay the groundwork for what discussion could look like, right? Dialogue could look like. And that's, it's not to say work hasn't been done, but we've also undone a lot of it, it feels. I think the
Forgot.
reason, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, we've forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. And it's oftentimes that you will see this cyclical pattern over history as well, because people who reap the benefits of the sacrifices and struggles of previous generations, and you see it in every country, they will forget what was done to get to that point, and then new things will form, and then it just repeats and repeats and repeats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, as a reminder and, to echo your point about context, because you're right, there probably will be people who talk about other communities and to use your example of the Irish, I would say, sure, we can talk about that, absolutely, but let's not forget that you were also treated like the scum of the earth until they decided that you could be useful for them to operate their
Yep,
nation
exactly.
and then make you police officers.
Exactly.
So, because that, if you look at it historically, that is a very simplified version breakdown of it. But the high notes, that was the pathway.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of Irish immigrants went into law enforcement and fire departments and things of that nature. Um, and that I feel like is when it's that, I don't know, short man syndrome kind of
Mm,
situation. Like you get a taste of power, and now all of a sudden you want to make sure everybody below you knows it.
mm,
Um, but and you would think that you would hope that most people, when they were given that opportunity, they would use their powers for good
hmm.
because they know better and they know what it's like. But unfortunately, it seems that isn't always true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very enter and close the door behind you type mentality, right? And we see this in repeated again. I'm sorry, I don't care what it is not just specific to one group. We see this in across the board.
Mhm.
And a lot of it does have to do with we can take the psych view of things and say like maybe it's just deep-seated fear around things repeating and you just know you're really pragmatic and you just want to say at least for me my family I just want to protect the people I know and so that's why I'm going to act this way. It could also just I mean there's so many different ways it could go. It could be like well you like the power, you like the control that you now have and because you're now with the cool kids right who are doing all the things that you were once against it's different and it's different when you're on that side and so then that's kind of a true nature type argument maybe I don't know I feel like we are, I mean, it's good we're talking about this, right? And I do feel like this is why and I think you too, spend so much time not only in conversation with each other, but in conversations overall on these topics, because it's not easily sorted out. We can give our own personal account of what we've lived, but we have a lot to learn from each other that we seem to be forgetting. It's not a butterfly, snowflake, everyone is unique argument. It's like I literally would not have known the things that affect, let's say, transracial adoptees. Like, I didn't know that that was basically human trafficking until only a few years ago, right? And that happened to be because news stories broke out, and that made me see the experience of some of the people I grew up with so differently. Like, it's just like, oh my God. The same way that, I mean, it's not the same exactly, but for instance, I was a gymnast in the US for most of my early life, and a lot of people didn't know how brutal not only the sport, but the how broken and abusive and wrong the entire organization was. And even though I said things, no one believed me until Larry Nasser, right? Until the whole nation was like, oh my God, these young girls. Oh my God, what was everyone saying for like 50 years? You know? And so that's sort of it's my outrage, but it's why I'm also so personally invested, I think. We we have to keep finding ways to do this.
Mhm.
Don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for both of us, the motivation is to be the voices that we needed to hear when we were younger because we didn't have it. And
Mm,
I think we feel so compelled to do it because we are coming from a place of experience. And um, I don't, not to assess my own self, but I don't feel that either of us are doing it for our own glorification
mm,
beyond being what we needed and speaking to versions of ourselves that might still be out there needing to hear us. Um, Not because we think we have something so important necessarily to say, but we recognize that someone out there
yeah,
might want to say it,
yeah.
but they don't feel confident enough, or maybe they don't know how to put the words together
Mm,
because we were also that person once upon a time and we're not now. Um,
mm.
so yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what comes from this. I'm really excited to see what projects we put together, the connections we make with other people. Um, I feel lots of really good, happy thoughts around the work that we're creating.
Yeah, there's something very cathartic about it. And it's like productive catharsis. It's constructive catharsis, right? Because it's not like we are just complaining to complain and to talk about, oh my God, like we're just victim mentality. Both of us are not like that. We're trying to channel this into something good, something useful in the world, something bigger than just us. So the end. That's yeah.